This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Jay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
I got you, baby. What are you, man? You can't figure out the mic there on your StreamYard link?
I don't know what's going on there. Yeah, it's technology, you know. I don't know why it isn't working. But every time I started to talk, it would say that the mic wasn't found. So I'm not really sure what was going on.
It's all good, Jay. All right, let's get to it. I'm not shocked with the trade because there were some rumblings going on. You guys have been writing about it. It doesn't seem like he's been happy for a while. So walk me through what the hell happened here and how it finally happened.
Well, I think what happened, and that it's reflected in the compensation that the Bills got for making this trade, is that they tired of Stefon Diggs. They didn't want him on the roster anymore, quite frankly, and they didn't want him on the roster to the point that they were willing to not only trade him for no help at all in the 2024 season, considering the draft pick that they got is in 2025, but they were also willing to eat $31 million in money. Now, Stefon Diggs was going to count about $27 million on the cap, so they're adding about $4 million to that. And, that's a massive dead money cap hit. And the fact that they're willing to take that shows that they were ready to move on from Stefon Diggs almost no matter what the cost, because it is a big cost. And why would you be willing to do that? Well, you'd be willing to do that because you've had enough of having the guy on your team.
Right. No, and listen, dude, he's always been a malcontent. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of been the thing. And, that scene where he wasn't happy with the first half and McDermott's got to go hug him and talk to him. And it's like, dude, you're a grown ass man, brother. I mean, you act like a petulant child at times. And the part that really sucks. And, for me to say this as a Dolphins guy that follows the Dolphins, and obviously, I can't lie. I'm born and raised here, dude. I've always rooted for the Dolphins. But the Bills did everything for that guy, bro. Everything. And it was like, it was almost like the team never does enough. It doesn't matter if it's Minnesota. It doesn't matter if it's Buffalo. And it won't matter a damn bit in Houston, dude. It won't matter because eventually, if it's not Stefon's way, then it doesn't fly. And that's kind of the sad part about all of this, that they did everything to accommodate that dude.
Yeah, I mean, nothing that you said there was wrong. I think that's all pretty much spot on. The thing with the excuse me, the thing that confused me or maybe surprised me about this entire situation that I haven't been able to wrap my head around is, what did Stefon Diggs want that he wasn't getting in Buffalo? In the 4 years that he was a member of the Buffalo Bills, he was throwing the football more than anyone else in the NFL, more than any other receiver, potentially with the exception of Devontae Adams. Those two guys were 1 and 2 in terms of targets over the last 4 years.
Okay.
So literally no wide receiver was getting the ball more than Stefon Diggs. He wanted a new contract. He got that. He's paid like, a top 10 receiver when for a big chunk of last season, he didn't produce like a top 10 receiver.
Right.
He has Josh freaking Allen throwing him the football. Do you know how many wide receivers in the league would want to be catching passes from Josh Allen? He had an offense, he had a fan base here that is known for being passionate, that is known for supporting their players.
Big time.
Yeah, through thick and thin, right? One of the best fan bases in the league. And now, I can be biased in saying that, but, I cover this league. I go to every away stadium. I know what the passion of.
Dude, I don't think anybody can ever fight that, Jay, because Bills fans do things that no other fan base does. They end up contributing to other people's causes on other teams all the time. That's unheard of. Unheard of.
Yeah.
So as much as they're enemies down here and not liked down here, you got to respect the passion of the Bills fans. There's no doubt about that, dude. Please.
And so for me, it's just really confusing to wonder what it is that Stefon Diggs wasn't getting in Buffalo that he thinks he's going to get somewhere else. Now, listen, he landed in a good spot. Houston is an up and coming team. They've got an exciting young quarterback. Maybe this works out well for Stefon Diggs. Hopefully for his sake it does. He finds, whatever happiness that he was lacking in Buffalo, maybe they'll find it in Houston. But the fact that the Bills decided to do this and to take that dead money charge, as I said here at the start, just goes to show that they were more than willing and ready to have this guy not be a part of their team. And we can talk a lot about the compensation and what they got back in return. To me, that's secondary to this deal. The thing that jumps out to me is you had a player, a Pro Bowler, 4 great years, statistically great years in Buffalo, really helped Josh Allen, I think, grow as a quarterback. I don't think anybody would dispute that. Josh Allen certainly would not dispute that. But for whatever reason, he wasn't satisfied. It wasn't enough for him. And the Bills decided that, hey, we've got to cut bait here a year too soon rather than a year too late. And, and moving him off this roster leaves a gaping hole right now at number 1 receiver. It's going to be Brandon Beane has got a lot of work to do here to replace Stefon Diggs' production on this team. And it's not going to be easy. So it'll be interesting to see what he does the remainder of this offseason.
I got to tell you something, Jay, and I put it all on the Dolphins now. I know last year they were so injury riddled, and they had like 3 linebackers that had AARP cards playing in that playoff game. So I get they were super injury riddled, and it was hard for them. But if they're healthy, okay, which they haven't been the last 2 years, at the end of the season they've been just completely banged up. But if they're healthy at the end of the year, there is no excuse. You better win this division, because I think the Dolphins should be the best team in this division right now for this season. I don't believe in the Jets. I still think, isn't that a 40-year-old quarterback on a repaired Achilles on the same turf with a mediocre line, right, Jay? I think it's kind of the same thing, right? Okay, so, and everybody in the league is better than New England. I think Buffalo took enough steps back that if you don't win the division this year, you're never going to win it. I got to say.
I'm with you again on that. I do think, though, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see, whether you look at the betting lines, that kind of thing, whether those have moved, whether, maybe the Dolphins are favored.
But Buffalo will get the respect because they've won it for 4 or 5 years, the division straight. They're going to get the respect, and they still have Josh Allen, so they're still going to get it. But if I'm the Dolphins, brother, I don't. You're going to wait till they reload again? Okay, because obviously they took a couple steps back here now. They took cap hits, so they can't really load the way they need to. This is your time now. If you don't take advantage of it, I got to tell you, I got to be very critical of the organization, especially Mike McDaniel, if he doesn't figure this stuff out. If you're kind of healthy, I think you got to win this division. I really do.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of pressure on Miami to do that, right? When you look at them coughing up the division lead that they had last year, losing that game against Buffalo at home in the regular season finale, and you can answer this better than I can, but I have to wonder just how much Josh Allen is in the collective heads of the Dolphins, right? I mean, they have really never been able to defend him. I know that Miami has a couple of wins over the Bills in Josh Allen's time, but even in the games that they've won, Allen has played magnificent. For whatever reason, when it's Miami on the other sideline, that generally brings out the best in Josh Allen.
Yes,
and
it does. By the way, it brought the best out of Jim Kelly. You know what I mean? It brought the best out of brother. It brought the best out of Richard Todd. That's how old I am. Okay. I mean, it didn't have to just be the great ones. Sometimes even the guys who were all right would just like the magic, just like, Freeman McNeil? Wow, he's a Pro Bowler against the Dolphins. So you're right. Josh Allen has been an absolute thorn in the side for the Dolphins. They have not been able to figure that out at all.
Yeah, and I think looking at this from the Bills' perspective, I know that people are going to look at it, and you said it earlier. I don't necessarily disagree that the Bills have taken a step back. They have lost a lot of players from what has been a very successful organization the past 4 years with 4 straight AFC East titles is not easy to do. And you lose Stefon Diggs, you've lost Gabe Davis, you've lost Mitch Morse. Defensively, you've lost Jordan Poyer, who's now down there in Miami, Tre'Davious White. The list sort of goes on here with this purge that the Bills have had in regards to the salary cap, and now obviously the move with Diggs being the most recent. That being said, I don't think that getting younger, which is what's going to happen here, it has to happen, is necessarily going to, it doesn't have to be a bad thing for the Bills. Yes, I know that they have lost a lot of veteran leadership. I mean, this will blow your mind. The Bills had 8 captains last year. 6 of them are no longer on the team.
Yeah,
that is really hard to believe.
That's where you guys can reload with youth, but the youth still needs the experience, and that's where you might take a step back for a year or two. But then, if you pick the right players, you bounce back right away.
Yeah, and exactly. And obviously, again, we talk about Josh Allen, right? He's the guy that's left. He's the captain who's still here. He's the guy that all of this, revolves around. And I know that Bills fans don't want to hear this. They don't want to take a long view of this right now. But trading Stefon Diggs today, while it hurts right now, does give them a significantly different salary cap picture moving forward. Yeah. And so I look at this 2024 season as a year of transition for the Bills. They are not in any way rebuilding, not even close. I think
they'll be good. They'll be good, but not not like what they've been the last couple years. Right. Yes.
Yeah. I expect that they'll be a playoff team. Will they win the division? Can Miami overtake them? Certainly possible. Now, I also think though that we shouldn't ignore that the Dolphins have had some significant losses too. And losing a guy like Christian Wilkins, I mean, you talk about a guy who, what Allen has been for the Bills. Well, Wilkins, when he has played the Bills, has given them fits too. Yes. And so I think that's a huge loss for them.
That's where they haven't recovered. They haven't recovered, but I'll take Fuller over X and the Josh Allen linebacker, Jordan Brooks from Seattle. Mm-hmm. Young guy, fifth year now, athletic, can move. I think they got Jordan Brooks specifically for Josh Allen because they needed a guy that has some size, some athleticism, can move, can run, and can chase down that big mofo that kills them every single time. I think Jordan Brooks was specifically signed to stop Josh Allen, actually. So I like them more at linebacker. I like them more in the secondary. But you are right. They took a step back at defensive tackle. But again, I think it was one of those. Do you pay him 27? Would you pay $27 million to Christian Wilkins when he's really not a pass rusher? I have a hard, he averaged 5 sacks a year and he got the 9 this year. And go look at it. All 9 sacks. They're almost, except for the Buffalo one, every other one, they're all against bad teams and multiple sacks. He had like 2.5 against the Jets. He had like another 2 against the Patriots. Like he loaded up this year, luckily, on a lot of bad teams. And so I understood why the Dolphins said, yeah, no, dude, you're good, but not 27 million good. We got to move on from there. So I understood, but you are right. They took a step back there, but I think they took a step forward in 2 other areas because I'll take Jordan Brooks over Baker, and I'll take a younger Fuller over a worn down X who really doesn't have the need. You saw what Diggs did to his ass, bro. Come on.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, so both franchises are kind of in a situation, right, where they're getting younger at certain spots. They've lost players that maybe they didn't want to lose, but, those are realities of the salary cap era. And I think that's especially true for the Bills. It's going to be really weird seeing Jordan Poyer lined up in the secondary for the Dolphins. And I think, there's a lot of games from a Bills perspective now where, you look at Diggs is in Houston. Well, the Bills play Houston. Poyer is in Miami. Obviously, they play them twice. Gabe Davis and Mitch Morse in Jacksonville. The Bills play Jacksonville. So there's a lot of revenge games on the Bills' schedule. And, the Bills are the team, to your point earlier, they're the ones that have the target on their backs, especially in the division, right?
They will.
So that, the conference hasn't worked out for them, but, the Jets, the Patriots, the Dolphins, they have to be building a team with what you just said there in mind. How do we get past Buffalo? How do we win the division? Because that's every team's number one goal. And so, Miami, I think, is but let's just forget about all of that for a second. How great is it, though, that this rivalry is kind of back and both teams are legitimate, right? I mean, it's so much fun that
even though Miami, Jay, still has to earn it. Because
they do.
You know what it is? It's like when Knicks fans tell me, oh, it's a rivalry against the Heat. I'm like, no, there is no rivalry, dude. Miami trounces your ass for the last 20 years. You're a terrible franchise. When you start winning games, then it's a rivalry. So you can't be 2-13 against Sean McDermott. There is no rivalry. Like I just told you, Miami should win the division. Now, Vegas should not give them any damn respect because they haven't earned it. And that's the only problem with the Dolphins right now. They have to earn that part. We can say that they're at Buffalo's level. We can say that they have a shot at beating Buffalo. But, brother, you got to go out and do it already. You know,
Yeah.
it's just the talk is cheap every year. You got to get it freaking done. And so if the window's, it's there. And, you know, one more thing, Jay, that you and I have to do in the media and others have to do. And I think we do it sometimes, but maybe we need to remind fans because, like, your fans go into this panic, like, oh, my God, it's a total rebuild. And so did Miami. Oh, no, it's not a rebuild, dude. There are decisions you have to make. You have to let Hunt and Wilkins go and AVG. Why? Because you have to sign Tua, Waddle, Phillips, and Holland next year. So unfortunately, they made a decision. We're signing the next wave, not this wave. So then we will rebuild in those areas. But this happens to every team practically every year. They have to make tough decisions. They have to make financial decisions because the cap does not allow you to keep all the great players on your team. You're going to have to say bye to really good ones at times, and you're going to have to turn the page. And I think our fan bases all over the NFL have this tendency of panicking and not understanding the finances that go behind all of this. And the Bills, in your case, they had a problem child. They had to tear the scab off. How do you do this? You got to do it at one point or another, and you got to be ready to move on. Well, this is when they reached their point. And unfortunately, fiscally, these are the decisions that you have to make. But it's not because you want to rebuild or anything like that. These are just financial things that happen to every single team along the way. Dude, the Niners at one point had to get rid of Joe Montana. Like,
Yep.
like what the hell, bro? Really? You got rid of Montana. And that's because you had Young, and I get all of that, but everybody's tradable, bro. Everybody.
That is right. And, you know, I equated this earlier. I was talking with some people about this move of Diggs feels like something that Bill Belichick would have done back in the day, right? Be willing to move on from a player a year too soon rather than a year too late. And when you look at Brandon Beane's moves this offseason, he has really cut ties with players on the other side of 30. And Stefon Diggs will turn 31 this season, and Jordan Poyer into his 30s. Micah Hyde not re-signed, 30s. Mitch Morse, 30s. So they really, with the exception of Von Miller, who they made a big commitment to, who was in his 30s, they recently under Beane, there seems to have been a shift to say we need to start getting younger. They've been one of the oldest teams in the NFL the past couple of seasons. And that, you know, when I go back to, you know, sort of retooling, I think is the way that I want to phrase it, not rebuilding.
Exactly.
And that, you know, and this is part of it. And, you know, I do wonder what this year's draft class means for this move, Did Beane feel so good about the wide receiver class, which has been really hyped up and talked about being very, very strong, that he felt comfortable that he was going to be able to go into this draft and come away with a wide receiver who can contribute right away? I think there are moves 2, 3, and 4. Trading Diggs was move 1. We haven't seen moves 2, 3, and 4 yet. Those are still to come.
Yeah, and one of the things, Tam, what was I going to mention to you before? Now, I was just thinking about this, and damn, and now I'm brain farting, and I forgot what I was going to mention to you about these trades and the moves. But either way, I forgot anyways. But listen, like you were saying, Beane going younger, I did the same thing with Christian Wilkins. I tell Dolphin fans, just watch what they do. Don't listen to them. Watch them, right? And if you watch Chris Greer, right, he pays what? He pays receivers. He pays corners. He pays pass rushers. He pays left tackles. And he'll pay now his quarterback. And if he doesn't think you're a legit pass rusher, i.e. Wilkins, he's not going to pay you, dude. And so Sealer gets the same stats that Wilkins gets, and he's paying Sealer just under $11 million. you can't turn around and pay the guy $27 million that gets the same exact. In fact, Sealer's stats were slightly better than Wilkins this year, actually, because he had an interception and a touchdown, something that Wilkins didn't have, and he had, I think, one more sack than him, or half a sack or something than him, overall. So the way he looked at it was, oh, I'll pay Chubb. Yeah, no, he's a pass rusher, so I'll trade and pay for him. I'll pay for Byron Jones, and I'll pay for X, and I'll pay for Jalen Ramsey, and I'll pay for Tyreek, and eventually I'm going to pay Waddle. But he kind of tells you this is where I put the priorities on a football team. I don't put it on a guard. I put it on a tackle, and that's kind of that's kind of the way he rolls. And it's kind of like, okay, we'll get cheaper guards and we'll get through it that way. But I'm not paying for guards. I'm paying for tackles. And if you watch his MO so far in the last few years, that's all he ever pays. Most of the other people don't end up getting the big money. He ends up moving on from them or getting somebody that's in the middle of their career to fill in or something like that. That's kind of the way. It's interesting because they'll talk one way, GMs and coaches, but if you really just pay attention to what they're doing, they'll tell you exactly how they're really thinking. You know what I mean? And it's just, it's all there.
Yeah.
It's all there.
Yeah. And that's, that is kind of reflected in this, this roster building that the Bills have sort of taken under with Bean. And like I said earlier about the movement to sort of get a little bit younger in these key positions. And I think really value, they want to get out of this situation where they're so sort of their hands are tied really in the off season because of their cap issues. And that's what, led to the release of a guy like Hoyer who ends up in Miami and all those other players that I mentioned. They just had to clear the deck of their cap situation, and trading Diggs. Well, I said before, it hurts to have $31 million in dead money. But that's going to look pretty nice in 2025. And that's not to say that they're overlooking this upcoming season. I believe fully that the Bills expect to win. They expect to be an AFC contender again. They expect to, their goal, their stated goal, I'm sure, will be to win the division for a fifth straight year. None of that changes by trading Stefon Diggs. But what does change is more of their long-term outlook. And I think that this gives them some roster flexibility beyond this season to make a big move at wide receiver, whether it be, I know Justin Jefferson shooting for the moon and the stars, right? But we don't know what's going to happen with him in Minnesota. We don't know what's going to happen with Brandon Ayuk in San Francisco. Are those types of players?
T. Higgins, bro.
T. Higgins, right? Could any of those players, potentially become available? If so, I think the Bills have a little bit more flexibility to maybe try and make a move like that they didn't have yesterday, but while Stefon Diggs was still on the roster.
And Mike Brown ain't paying T. Higgins and the other guy. Nah, that ain't going to happen, bro. Mike Brown don't spend that kind of money. So T. Higgins will become available to somebody, and he is a legit number one on any other team, okay? I mean, legit number one. That guy is a stud. Any team that signs T. Higgins is going to sign themselves a number one absolute stud out there. All right, Jay. Follow him on Twitter at Jay Skurski. And if you're a Bills fan out there, you can get his coverage there at the Buffalo News. Jay, thank you on short notice, man. Appreciate you because I know you've been going crazy, breaking the news and all that stuff and getting all that stuff out there to fans. So appreciate you taking some time today, man.
Yeah, you got it. Thanks for having me. Talk to you guys soon.
You got it, baby. There you go. Jay Skurski, Buffalo News. We appreciate him as always.